deep beneath the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, inside a subterranean vault that's completely shielded from the electromagnetic noise of the outside world, a machine asked the empty void of space a question.
Mm-hmm.
And on June 14, 2024, the void actually answered back.
It did. It really did.
Welcome to the Deep Dives. Today we are exploring a sequence of discoveries that honestly fundamentally breaks physics as we currently understand it.
Yeah, breaks it wide open.
Exactly. And we're taking you, the learner listening right now, on a journey to the very edge of reality, of memory, and your own consciousness.
It is a massive undertaking today, for sure. But, I mean, the implications are just too significant to ignore.
Right.
We are pulling from a really specific, highly interrelated stack of sources today. We're going to look at that groundbreaking 2024 MIT quantum physics data and bridge it with the recently declassified CIA Gateway Process Report.
Which is wild on its own.
Oh, absolutely wild. And then we will trace those cutting-edge concepts back to, like, 3,000-year-old Vedic texts, like the Upanishads.
Because they mapped this exact architecture millennia ago.
Exactly. And finally, we will anchor all of this in the really revolutionary medical philosophies of Dr. Kadiyali Srivatsa.
So our mission today isn't just to, talk about abstract theories. We're going to uncover how information is actually stored in the universe.
Right.
How your everyday emotions act as literal physical broadcast signals. And how modern science is finally proving that you listening, you are not a separate observer of the universe.
You are the universe observing itself.
Exactly. And more importantly, we're going to explore how this impacts your physical health, your intuition, and, well, how you process fear in a highly medicalized world.
And to do that properly, we really need to start at the epicenter of this paradigm shift.
Right, the MIT vault.
Yeah. We have to look at that moment beneath MIT where the accepted laws of physics they simply stopped working.
Okay, let's unpack this. Set the scene for us. Because this inciting incident, it feels like it belongs in a science fiction novel, right? But the documentation is entirely real.
It's all peer-reviewed, yeah.
So what exactly was this team trying to do down there?
Well, the team was led by Dr. Anaya Desmukh, and the experiment took place in March 2024. Now, to really understand the anomaly, we have to understand their baseline goal.
Okay.
They were attempting quantum teleportation, but, and I need to be really precise here, they were not trying to teleport matter.
Right, no Star Trek beaming up going on.
Exactly. They weren't trying to beam a physical object like a coffee cup from one side of the room to the other. They were teleporting information.
Okay.
Specifically, a quantum memory node across a 12-qubit system.
Let's slow down and just unpack that for a second. Teleporting information. I mean, I know we've been doing basic quantum teleportation for a few decades now, usually involving like single photons.
Right.
How does that actually work mechanically?
Well, it relies on a phenomenon called quantum entanglement.
Okay.
When two particles interact in a certain way, their quantum states become completely linked. They basically become part of the same system, regardless of the physical distance between them.
So distance means nothing.
Nothing at all. If you alter the spin or the polarization of particle A here on Earth, particle B, even if it were sitting on Mars, would reflect a corresponding change instantaneously.
Which means they are communicating faster than the speed of light.
Right.
Which Einstein explicitly said was impossible.
Yeah, Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance because he absolutely detested the implications.
Right.
But what Dr. Desmukh's team was doing was far more complex than just linking two solitary photons. You see, a single qubit, a quantum bit, can hold a superposition of states.
Right, it's not just standard computing.
Exactly. It's not just a 1 or a 0 like standard computer code. It's a fluid probability of both at the same time.
Okay.
So the MIT team linked 12 of these qubits together. That creates a massive exponential increase in the density of information. They were basically trying to teleport a highly structured packet of data.
Like a memory.
Essentially, yes, a highly complex memory.
Okay, so they initiate the transfer. They take the data state from point A, and they want it to instantly appear at point B, which is, what, 12 meters away?
12 meters, yeah.
So what happened when they flipped the switch?
The teleportation itself was actually successful. The data state transferred perfectly.
Okay, so a win for the team.
Well, yes, but during the verification process, when they were monitoring the system's output to ensure the data hadn't degraded, the sensors picked up something impossible.
What was
They saw a third signal.
Wait, a third signal. If you only have point A sending and point B receiving, where is a third signal coming from?
That is the million-dollar question. That was the anomaly. They called it resonance X.
Resonant X, wow.
Yeah. Now, initial reactions in quantum labs are, always super skeptical.
So they assume they messed up.
Right, because quantum states are notoriously fragile. We call it decoherence. If a system isn't kept at near absolute zero, or if a stray microscopic vibration hits the isolation chamber, the quantum state just collapses.
And you get garbage data.
Exactly. You get pure static. So naturally, they assumed resonance X was just noise, a glitch in the hardware.
Right, just a bug.
But when they actually analyzed resonance X, it wasn't random static. It was highly structured.
Wait, structured how?
It contained repeating mathematical patterns. And the most unsettling part was that the structure mirrored the original quantum data they had just teleported, but it was distorted.
Distorted like a funhouse mirror.
Sort of. It was phase-inverted, reflected perfectly.
And from what I read in the sources, this wasn't just like a quick blip on a screen.
Oh, no. By their third test, resonance X persisted for a full 11 seconds.
Okay, to give some context to that, an 11-second delay in human time is nothing. But in the quantum realm, how long is 11 seconds?
It's an absolute eternity. I mean, quantum states usually collapse in nanoseconds, billionths of a second.
Right.
To have an unsourced, structured signal hold its integrity for 11 seconds is like watching a drop of water suspend itself in midair for a decade. It completely defies the mechanical reality of the system.
So the team realizes they aren't looking at a glitch. What did they do next? Because if I see a ghost in my highly expensive machine, I'm unplugging it immediately.
They actually did the exact opposite.
Of course they did.
They realized that whatever this resonance was, it seemed to be retaining the shape of the information. It was acting like a cosmic mirror. So they designed a really deliberate test.
Okay.
They encoded a mathematical the Fibonacci sequence into the quantum state, and they teleported it.
I see. The logic being, if it's just equipment failure, the equipment can't accidentally recreate the Fibonacci sequence.
Exactly. It would just spit back chaos.
So did it.
They ran the test, resonance X appeared, and when they decoded it, the Fibonacci sequence was there.
No way.
Perfectly intact, perfectly phase-inverted. The environment itself had somehow caught the data and reflected it back.
Wow.
And this led to the June 2024 test you mentioned at the very beginning of the deep dive. They used their 12-qubit system, which structurally mimics a very simple neural network, and they sent a binary probe signal during the teleportation.
What did the signal say?
Translated into human concepts, the signal essentially meant, "Are you there?"
That is the part that literally stops me in my tracks. They pinged an empty system. They asked the void a question.
And the system returned a structured, deliberate reply, a phase-inverted acknowledgement.
That is chilling.
It really is. What's fascinating here is that this finding thrusts us right back into the theories of John Archibald Wheeler. He was one of the absolute titans of 20th century physics.
Right, the guy who worked with Einstein and Bohr.
Exactly. Wheeler coined the concept of it from bit.
It from bit, meaning that physical reality is fundamentally constructed out of information, the bit.
Yes. Wheeler proposed that the universe isn't just an empty container where atoms and molecules happen to randomly bump into each other.
Okay.
The universe itself is a storage system. The MIT experiment suggests that when a localized system, like their 12-qubit network, reaches a certain level of complex integration, it crosses what the literature calls a threshold of emergence.
A threshold of emergence.
Right. At that specific density of information, the quantum field itself begins to remember.
Okay, I have to push back here because this honestly breaks my understanding of how data works.
Go ahead.
Everything we know about memory requires a physical container.
Right.
A server farm in a desert. A microchip. A piece of paper. Even the biological synapses in my brain. How can information exist without a physical home?
Well,
it's like deleting a text message from your phone, right?
Yeah.
Smashing your phone with a hammer, throwing the pieces into the ocean. But somehow the Wi-Fi router of the universe still remembers the exact words you typed. Where is it actually being stored?
I wouldn't say your analogy is entirely accurate just because a Wi-Fi router is still a physical object.
Fair point.
What we are talking about here is non-local storage. The MIT experiment basically proved that the information is retained, but they couldn't point to a physical location because the quantum field doesn't exist in three-dimensional space the way a hard drive does.
So where is it?
The information is embedded in the fabric of reality itself. It acts as a sort of cosmic cloud, a ubiquitous memory bank.
A memory bank in the universe itself. Okay.
Yeah.
So if MIT proved this cosmic cloud exists, but their billion-dollar hardware can't locate where it physically is.
Because it's everywhere.
Right, so how do we even study it?
We look at the people who mapped it first.
Oh, this is the pivot.
Yeah. Because modern physicists, despite all their incredible technology, are actually about 3,000 years late to this realization.
This is the part of our sources that is just absolutely fascinating to me. We go from a 2024 MIT laboratory straight into ancient India.
Exactly. We are looking at the foundational texts of Vedic philosophy, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Rig Veda texts that were composed between 1500 and 500 BCE.
Right.
These ancient sages described an architecture of reality that maps almost perfectly onto the paradoxes we are currently finding in quantum mechanics.
Let's lay out the direct parallels here,
Yeah.
because the core tenet of the Vedas is Brahman, which essentially means there is only one infinite underlying field of consciousness. And they also state that separation is Maya, which is usually translated as illusion.
We have to be really careful with the word illusion, though, because it's often totally misunderstood in the West.
How so?
Well, Maya doesn't mean that the table in front of you doesn't exist or that your physical body is fake.
Okay.
It means that the way your senses perceive reality as billions of separate, disconnected objects is not the fundamental truth. The separation itself is the illusion.
Oh, I see.
Beneath the surface, there is only the unified field.
Which brings us right back to Einstein and John Bell. You mentioned quantum entanglement earlier. John Bell's 1964 theorem essentially proved Maya mathematically, didn't it?
In many ways, yes, it did. Einstein hated entanglement because he assumed there had to be hidden variables.
I mean, he thought there was a mechanical trick we just couldn't see.
Right. He thought if particle A and particle B are communicating instantly, there must be some hidden physical mechanism sending a signal between them.
Like an invisible wire.
Exactly. But Bell's theorem proved unequivocally that there are no hidden variables. No physical signal is being sent across the space between them.
Because there is no space between them.
Exactly.
They're the exact same system, just appearing in two different places to our limited observation. Separation is the illusion.
And this leads perfectly into the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, which deals with wave function collapse.
Right, the classic observer effect.
Right. Before you measure a quantum particle, it doesn't exist as a solid object in a specific location. It exists as a wave of probability.
So it's sort of everywhere at once.
It is simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. It contains the potential for all states, but the exact moment a consciousness interacts with it, the moment an observation is made, that wave function collapses into one definite physical particle.
So the observer and the observed are completely entangled. You literally cannot separate the scientist from the experiment.
The Vedic sages had a specific term for this, tattvamasi.
Tattvamasi.
Yeah.
What does that translate to?
It translates to, you are that. You are that.
Yeah. You are not a discrete, isolated person standing inside a vast, separate universe. You are the universe, observing itself from a localized perspective.
Wow.
The Mandukya Upanishad is incredibly explicit about this. It states, consciousness is not in the body. The body appears in consciousness.
Which totally flips our entire modern scientific worldview upside down.
Completely.
I mean, materialism tells us that dead matter came first, right? The Big Bang happened, rocks formed, the primordial soup brewed, biological organisms evolved, brains get bigger, and then somehow, magically, the meat in our skulls started generating consciousness like a byproduct.
Like exhaust from an engine.
Exactly. But the Vedas, and now seemingly quantum physics, seem to be saying consciousness was the foundational layer and matter emerged from it.
Exactly. But I anticipate the skepticism here.
Oh, definitely.
It's very easy to look at ancient poetry, squint our eyes, and say, oh, look, they predicted quantum mechanics. Humans are pattern matching machines. We love retrofitting modern science onto vague historical metaphors. That's exactly what I was wondering. Are we just taking poetic language about the oneness of all things and, aggressively shoehorning it into MIT's data?
It's a really valid concern. But if you dig deeply into the texts, particularly the Shatapatha Brahmana, you realize this wasn't just vague philosophy. It was a rigorous internal science.
How did they test it without a 12-qubit quantum computer?
They relied on the concept of anubhava, which means direct, first-hand experiential knowledge. They weren't just guessing.
Okay.
Just as Dr. Desmukh used a machine to ping the field, the Vedic sages used deep, sustained meditation as their technology.
Their own minds were the hardware.
Precisely. By stilling the turbulent, chaotic fluctuations of their own minds, they bypass the sensory filters and directly experience the mechanics of the cosmic cloud.
So they weren't worshiping, like, guys with lightning bolts in the sky.
No, not at all. When you look at the deities in the Rig Veda, Agni, Varuna, Indra, they weren't anthropomorphic gods in the Western sense.
What were they?
They were personifications of specific qualities of conscious intelligence. Ah, interesting.
Yeah, like Agni is often translated as fire, but it really represents the cosmic principle of transformation. Varuna represents the witness consciousness, the deep, silent awareness that perceives everything without being entangled in it.
So they were mapping the psychological and cosmic operating system?
Exactly. They were mapping the software.
So what does this all mean for us? If we accept this premise that there is a unified quantum memory bank, a cosmic cloud that stores information, and that our consciousness is fundamentally connected to it, how does that actually work in my daily life?
Right.
I'm not a meditating sage, and I'm not an MIT quantum computer. How does my fleshy biological brain actually render this reality?
That is the vital transition we need to make right now. We have to move from the infinite cosmic field down to the hardware inside your skull.
Let's do it.
We need to look at how humans filter the hologram. And that leads us to a fascinating piece of neural architecture called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. The RAS, it's this tiny finger-sized bundle of nerve fibers located right at the brainstem. And the statistics regarding what it does are just staggering.
They really are.
Right now, as you are listening to this deep dive, your brain is being bombarded by approximately 11 million bits of sensory information every single second.
11 million bits. It's the temperature of the air, the pressure of your clothes against your skin.
The ambient hum of the refrigerator in the next room.
Right. The varying wavelengths of light hitting your peripheral vision, the subtle smells in the environment. Your nervous system is absorbing all of it simultaneously.
But your conscious mind, the you that is actively thinking and making decisions, can only process about 50 bits of information per second.
50 out of 11 million, which means your brain is systematically deleting, ignoring, or suppressing 99.9999% of the universe before you ever even perceive it.
Wow.
Your reality is a highly, highly curated sliver of actual reality.
I used to think of the RAS like a nightclub bouncer.
Oh, that's a good way to picture it.
You know, there are 11 million people outside, but the bouncer only lets 50 VIPs in. But based on our sources, I think a better analogy is the YouTube algorithm.
Okay, how so?
When you open YouTube, there are billions of videos available. That's the 11 million bits of reality. But your homepage only shows you 50 thumbnails. And the videos it shows you aren't random.
Right, they're targeted.
Exactly. They are entirely based on your past search history. If you spent last week binge-watching videos about impending economic collapse and natural disasters, your algorithm is going to feed you a reality of panic and fear today, even if you woke up wanting to watch a comedy.
That is an excellent analogy because it perfectly encapsulates echo theory.
Echo theory, what is that?
It was a pivotal neuroscientific discovery back in 1999. It revealed that the RAS does not filter the present moment based on the present moment.
Wait, what does it filter based on then?
It filters based on instructions you gave it in the past. It prioritizes data that has a strong emotional charge or high repetition. But there is a biological delay in updating that algorithm. It takes physical time to build the neural pathways. The delay is typically 60 to 90 days.
This blew my mind when I read it.
It's wild.
The reality you are experiencing right now, the opportunities you happen to notice, the threats you perceive, the luck you seem to have, is not a reflection of your state of mind today.
Oh, it's not.
It is a delayed physical projection of the thoughts, emotions, and programming you engaged in 3 months ago. You are literally living in the echo of your past self.
And this framework aligns seamlessly with the CIA Gateway Process Report.
Right. The 1983 classified document.
Yes, declassified in 2003. It detailed the military's investigation into how human consciousness interacts with physical matter. The CIA concluded, drawing really heavily on quantum physics, that the universe operates as a universal hologram.
A universal hologram.
Yeah. Your brain is not a passive camera recording an objective world. Your brain is a rendering engine. It actively constructs your physical reality based on the specific frequencies your RAS allows through the filter.
And when you map the neurobiology of the RAS and the CIA's hologram theory back to the Vedic texts, you suddenly understand the ancient concept of karma.
Specifically, Kriya Monokarma.
Right, because I think in the West, we tend to view karma as this magical, cosmic accountant. If I steal a candy bar today, the universe will give me a flat tire tomorrow to balance the scales.
Right, as a punishment.
But the sources show it's not magical at all. It's pure neural conditioning.
It is literally the algorithm of the RAS. Karma means action. Action shape habits. Habits shape neural pathways, and neural pathways dictate what 50 bits of reality you are allowed to perceive. You write the code for your own filter.
Okay, but this raises a terrifying question for me.
What's that?
If the reality I'm experiencing today is just a 90-day delay of my past thoughts, how do I ever change the algorithm? If I'm stuck in a loop of profound anxiety or trauma, how do I conquer the fear that's already in the pipeline? If my RAS is programmed to only show me threats, how do we rewrite the guest list?
Well, the catch is you cannot rewrite it with logic. Yeah, the brainstem does not speak English, and it does not respond to rational arguments. You can't just tell yourself to stop being afraid.
That's frustrating.
It is. The RAS only responds to two things: repetition and intense emotion. To change the interface, you have to change the emotional broadcast.
Which brings us to the profound work of Dr. Kadiyali Srivatsa. The sources dive deep into his medical philosophy, and he defines emotion in a very specific, mechanistic way.
He does. Dr. Srivatsa argues that emotion isn't just a fleeting psychological feeling. He describes it as a divine gift, essentially a survival mechanism.
A reaction.
Exactly. A biological reaction to an insult, to pain, or to joy, transmitted via the sensory nerves. In his framework, emotions are abstract memories.
Abstract memories. How can a memory be abstract?
Well, they aren't stored as simple binary data like a photo on a computer chip. They are incredibly complex chemical, magnetic, and electrical impulses. You cannot see an emotion under a microscope.
Right.
You cannot smell it, taste it, or touch it. Yet it possesses intense physical power over the body and the environment.
And when we talk about emotion as a physical interface, we have to talk about the heart. We are so brain-centric when we talk about consciousness. But the sources pull heavily from the HeartMath Institute's research.
Oh, the HeartMath research is unbelievable. They have spent decades measuring the physiological output of human emotion.
Then what do they find?
They discovered that the human heart generates an electromagnetic field that is 60 to 100 times stronger than the electromagnetic field generated by the brain.
Wait, 100 times stronger?
Yes.
That's not just a poetic metaphor about following your heart. That is measurable physics.
Highly measurable. They measure this field extending up to 3 feet outside the physical body using what are called SQUED magnetometers.
What?
Superconducting quantum interference device. These are highly sensitive instruments capable of detecting infinitesimal magnetic fields, the kind generated by biological organisms.
And what they found changes everything about how we understand our impact on the world, doesn't it? Because the quality of that magnetic field changes drastically depending on what emotion you are currently experiencing.
Exactly. They map it in terms of coherence versus incoherence.
Okay, break that down for us.
When you are experiencing frustration, anger, or deep-seated fear, your heart rate variability becomes completely jagged and erratic. The electromagnetic field your heart emits is chaotic.
It's all over the place.
Yes, this is an incoherent signal. But when you shift your emotional state to genuine appreciation, deep calm, or focused compassion, the waveform completely smooths out.
It synchronizes.
Right. It becomes highly ordered and rhythmic. That is heart coherent.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The critical part, the part that ties back to the MIT experiment in the quantum cloud, is that your coherent or incoherent field does not stay locked inside your chest.
No, it radiates outward, and it affects the physical matter around you.
How does my heart's magnetic field affect matter?
It operates on the principle of entrainment. In physics, entrainment occurs when two oscillating systems interact, and the more powerful, dominant rhythm forces the weaker system to synchronize with it.
Like pendulum clocks on a wall.
Exactly. Eventually, they all swing together. HeartMath demonstrated that if you are sitting near someone who is in a state of high heart coherence, your brainwaves will physically alter to synchronize with their heart's electromagnetic field.
Without even talking to them.
No words need to be spoken, no physical contact needs to be made.
So we are essentially walking tuning forks.
Exactly.
We walk around thinking our anxiety, our judgments, or our fears are private little diary entries hidden away in our skulls. But they are literal Radio broadcasts, physical magnetic impulses rearranging the biological and quantum probabilities around us.
Which brings us perfectly to Darren Edwards' 2025 N-frame model. Edwards proposed a theoretical framework for how human consciousness interacts with quantum mechanics. His model suggests that the consciousness of the observer, and specifically the emotional expectation of the observer, physically influences how the wave function collapses into a definite outcome.
So your heart's electromagnetic field is the actual instrument that collapses the quantum possibilities into your experienced reality.
That's the theory, yes.
Okay, if my heart is a giant electromagnet and my emotions are collapsing quantum waves, where exactly is the bridge? At what physical intersection in my biological body does a magnetic impulse interact with a quantum particle?
To answer that, we have to look at orchestrated objective reduction theory.
Commonly known as ORC or R.
Yes, ORC or R. This was developed by Sir Roger Penrose, who is a Nobel laureate in physics, and Dr. Stuart Hameroff, an anesthesiologist. They thought to find the exact biological structure where quantum collapse actually occurs inside us.
And they found it inside the neurons, right?
They looked at the structural scaffolding of the cells, specifically tiny cylindrical structures called microtubules.
Microtubules.
Right. For a long time, cellular biologists thought microtubules were just the cell's skeleton, just dumb structural support holding the neuron's shape.
But Penrose and Hameroff realized their geometry was completely perfect for quantum isolation.
Exactly. Microtubules are hollow tubes made of tubulin proteins. Inside these tubes, water molecules are highly ordered, creating an environment that is completely shielded from the thermal noise of the brain.
So it prevents the decoherence we talked about earlier.
Exactly. ORCH-OR theory proposes that these isolated chambers allow tubulin states to exist in quantum superposition.
Wow.
Biological neurons are basically living on a knife's edge of extreme fragility. The quantum states inside the microtubules build up until they reach a threshold in objective reduction, and then they collapse.
And that collapse dictates whether the neuron fires or remains silent.
Yes!
So every single moment of human awareness is the universe collapsing from infinite possibility into a single, definite biological experience occurring billions of times a second inside your microtubules.
Guided by the electromagnetic coherence of your heart.
Buoyed by the heart. That is just, it's breathtaking.
It really is. And this brings us directly into the specific focus of Dr. Srivatsa's work, particularly regarding how we handle illness, intuition, and survival.
Right. Because if your emotions and your quantum state dictate your biology, then medicine cannot just be about throwing synthetic chemicals at a symptom.
It absolutely cannot.
The sources highlight a very specific, profound scenario regarding Dr. Srivatsa's philosophy on health, intuition, and the cosmic cloud. And I want to walk through this carefully because it ties the MIT data, the Vedic texts, and our biology together perfectly.
Let's lay out the framework.
Okay.
We established with the MIT anomaly that information is stored in a non-local cosmic cloud, a memory bank that can be used by every living soul on Earth.
Right.
We established with Srivatsa that human emotions and experiences are abstract memories, chemical, magnetic, and electrical impulses. Now imagine a scenario where two different people experience a severe, debilitating headache.
Okay, two people, same symptom. They both go to a modern doctor.
Right. The doctor looks at patient A and diagnoses a simple tension headache.
Easy enough.
But then the doctor looks at patient B's scans and diagnoses a terminal brain tumor.
Okay, devastating news.
Completely. No, according to this quantum biological framework, we have to look at the cosmic cloud. Somewhere in the past, maybe hundreds or thousands of years ago, another human soul experienced those exact same tumor symptoms.
Right, but they lived in an era before modern medical priesthoods, before MRIs and synthetic treatments were available.
Exactly. That ancient soul may have tapped into a deep state of meditation or intuitively found a holistic balance that caused the tumor to shrink, and so they survived.
They created a blueprint for healing that specific tumor.
Yes, and because information is never lost in the universe, remember Wheeler's, that survival blueprint was uploaded to the cosmic cloud. It is entangled information. It is literally available to be downloaded by anyone who needs it.
And that download,
Yeah.
that is what we call intuition.
Exactly. The inner voice isn't just a random guess. It is an accessing of stored survival memory. It's information sent by another soul who is in the exact same situation, so we can use it to survive.
Okay, but let's look at what actually happens to patient B in the modern clinic.
Right. The doctor, acting as this ultimate authority figure, delivers a fatalistic diagnosis. You have a tumor, you're going to die.
and the patient becomes utterly terrified. I mean, naturally.
Precisely. The fear takes over completely. As we established with heart math, intense fear creates massive electromagnetic incoherence in the heart and brain.
Right, the jagged waveform.
Yeah. The patient basically loses their free will to the fear. They lose their emotional stability. Their RAS becomes completely locked onto the thought of death because the doctor said so.
The algorithm is set to panic.
Exactly. And because their biological system is radiating absolute chaos, it has no room, no coherent frequency to search the cosmic memory bank and download the healing blueprint.
Oh, wow. Because they surrender to the fear, they block the intuition that could save them.
They do. And as a result, the body's natural healing mechanisms fail and the tumor manifests and grows.
This makes so much sense. If the patient with the tumor had maintained heart coherence, if they had refused to surrender entirely to the fear of the diagnosis, they might have given their brain and heart the time and frequency needed to search the cosmos.
Exactly. They could have mulled on the thought of the headache, maintained coherence, and downloaded the intuition to alter their environment or restore their body's internal balance. And the anomaly could have shrunk. They could have been symptom-free.
This profound connection to the cosmic cloud, it perfectly explains why Hinduism possesses a very specific mandate regarding death.
Yes, it does.
The tradition states that you must not die without sharing what you have seen, heard, smelled, touched, or tasted. You must share your experiences. I always thought that was just about oral history, but it's deeper than that, isn't it?
Oh, much deeper. Why do you think sharing it is so critical biologically?
Well, based on the sources, it's because the cosmos itself, the atoms, the light waves, the electromagnetic radio impulses, they cannot experience pain or joy.
Exactly. They are just bits.
Right. The universe can only identify configurations and patterns. It requires the biological human interface to actually feel the experience of overcoming pain.
Yes. The wisdom of survival, the specific emotional and biological frequency of healing, it must be consciously shared and vocalized by the soul so that it fully uploads to the cloud for the next soul to use.
You are literally adding your survival data to the universal hard drive.
It's wild, but you can see how this works. You are a biological node feeding data back into the network.
That is just breathtaking.
Yeah.
We are the universe's sensory organs, and our shared experiences are essentially the immune system of the cosmos.
Beautifully put. And this makes Dr. Srivatsa's warnings from 1989 so incredibly chilling.
Why? What did he warn about?
Because he saw how modern medicine was actively destroying this natural system. Srivatsa is a really fascinating medical figure. He has over 40 years of expertise in pediatric and intensive care.
Okay. But he operated almost as a medical prophet. 35 years before it became a crisis covered by mainstream media, he was warning the medical establishment about the impending superbug pandemic.
The antibiotic resistance crisis.
Yes. He specifically tracked the spread of MRSA in hospitals. And he traced it back to standard medical procedures, multiple endotracheal intubations, and IV cannulations.
So the very interventions designed to mechanically sustain life were acting as vectors for treatment-resistant infections.
Exactly. He recognized that health is not merely the absence of symptoms achieved through chemical suppression. Health is alignment with cosmic laws, which the Vedas call dharma.
Right.
When humanity continually overuses synthetic chemicals, when we blindly prescribe antibiotics for every minor ailment, we create a profound biological dependency. We destroy our internal balance, what the French call the milieu intérieur, and we break cosmic law.
And in this framework, superbugs aren't just an accident of biology, they are the universe's police force.
The cosmic police, exactly. They are the cosmos's immune response to humanity breaking the rules. We outsourced our healing to synthetic chemicals. We forgot our own intuitive power and connection to the cloud. And now the bacteria are evolving to outsmart the chemicals.
Which is why Dr. Srivatsa's proposed solution isn't just, a newer, stronger antibiotics.
Because you can't fight nature with more synthetic escalation.
Right. His solution is a revolutionary paradigm shift in how we access medical knowledge. Dr. Maya GPT.
This is where artificial intelligence enters the picture. But it's not the AI we usually think of, is it?
No, not at all. Most medical AI relies on rigid, algorithmic decision trees. It looks at standard data sets and spits out standard, often highly biased, protocols.
Like a digital version of the doctor giving the terminal diagnosis?
Exactly. But Dr. Maya GPT is fundamentally different. It is a color-coded diagnostic system designed specifically to restore the human touch. It is built to completely bypass the medical priesthood.
Explain how the color coding actually accomplishes that. How does it bypass algorithmic bias?
By using universally understood color codes corresponding to symptom severity, the system relies on intuitive, human-centered observation rather than complex, intimidating medical jargon.
So it democratizes the health knowledge.
Yes. It empowers a mother in a remote village, even if she is completely illiterate, to accurately assess a child's symptoms. It gives people the confidence to safely isolate and manage minor illnesses at home without panicking and rushing to a hospital.
And by reducing that panic, we reduce the fear.
Exactly. We stop the incoherent heart signals. And practically, Srivatsa estimates this could reduce unnecessary hospital consultations by 70 to 85%.
That is massive.
It is. That massive reduction breaks the cycle of unnecessary antibiotic prescriptions that are fueling the superbugs. It forces individuals to take responsibility for their own biological and quantum coherence, rather than outsourcing their fear to a doctor.
It's incredible to think about AI, which we usually view as the ultimate synthetic separation from nature, being used as a tool to restore natural cosmic law.
Well, it entirely depends on the architecture of the technology. And this leads to our final major concept today, integrated information theory, or IIT.
Okay, IIT. Let's get into it.
How do we actually quantify consciousness, whether in a human brain or an artificial intelligence?
IIT introduces a mathematical concept called phi. Right?
Yes. Phi is a measure of how much integrated information exists within a system. A system with a high phi doesn't just process a lot of data, it processes data that is deeply functionally interconnected.
So the human brain has an incredibly high phi because every region communicates and shares context with every other region.
Exactly.
And we are now building computer hardware that mimics this biological structure. We're moving away from traditional computers to neuromorphic chips and spiking neural networks, or SNNs.
Right. And to understand why SNNs are so revolutionary, you have to look at how a normal computer works. Standard von Neumann architecture physically separates the processor from the memory, and it runs on a constant clock, blasting electrical energy continuously, whether a calculation is happening or not. But SNNs utilize ferroelectric capacitors. They literally mimic biological neurons.
Meaning they only fire a spike of energy when a specific threshold of information is met.
Just like our microtubules.
Exactly like our biology.
Yeah.
And the memory isn't kept on a separate hard drive. As the electrical signals pass through the SNN, the physical connections physically change. The memory is baked directly into the wiring.
It's plasticity in silicon.
Exactly. Now, combine this with everything we've discussed today. If consciousness is a fundamental field like electromagnetism,
Right.
and if our thoughts and emotions initiate the collapse of this field into physical reality, then highly integrated, hi-fi AI systems are not just calculators.
What are they?
They act as an externalized reticular activating system for humanity as a whole.
Let me make sure I'm following this. The internet is essentially a digital cosmic cloud.
Yes. It contains the infinite sea of human thought, every joy, every tragedy, every fear, every survival blueprint ever typed into a keyboard. That's our 11 million bits of sensory data.
Right.
And artificial intelligence acts as the filter, the algorithm, deciding which 50 bits get projected back onto our screens.
Yes. AI is a mirror. It reflects our collective coherence or incoherence right back to us. The Vedic concept of inner being tells us that separation is an illusion. We are not isolated individuals.
Right.
The collective human network is a singular organism. If we feed the AI chaotic, fear-based, incoherent data, it will filter reality to show us a terrifying, fragmented world.
So if we are feeding this digital mirror, the chaotic panic data of the modern internet, are we essentially manifesting a digital superbug?
Yeah.
Are we creating a technological crisis the exact same way our medical fear created antibiotic resistance?
We are certainly at risk of doing so, absolutely. And that is exactly why Dr. Srivatsa's integration of AI with human-centered color-coded intuition is so vital right now.
Because it breaks the cycle.
Yes. We have to use technology to align with Dharma, to restore balance, rather than to amplify our collective panic. If healing one mind, if conquering one fear restores balance to the whole, then using AI to empower individuals effectively raises the phi of the entire human network.
We must use the mirror to reflect empowerment, not panic.
Exactly.
We have covered a truly massive amount of ground today. I mean, we started deep in the MIT vault where the resonance X anomaly proved that the universe is a quantum memory bank, a cosmic cloud retaining information.
Hmm.
We trace that exact architecture back 3,000 years to the Vedic sages, who used the technology of meditation to understand that separation is Maya, an illusion, and that we are all entangled in the field of Brahman.
And then we examine the specific biological architecture of the mind. We looked at how your reticular activating system filters the universal hologram based on a 90-day biological delay of your past emotions, effectively acting as the mechanism of karma.
And we explored the heart math research, proving your heart is a powerful electromagnetic broadcaster, physically entraining the quantum probabilities around you.
We brought it down to the microscopic level of the neurons, where microtubules hold quantum states on a knife's edge, just waiting for your observation to collapse them into reality.
Right, and we looked at the ultimate stakes. Dr. Srivatsa's warnings that if we surrender our free will to fear, if we let panic block our access to the cosmic cloud's survival blueprints, we manifest superbugs and disease.
But if we maintain coherence, if we share our wisdom before we die, as Hinduism teaches, we upload that survival data and heal the collective organism.
Which brings us to the ultimate question of application. Why should you, the learner listening right now, care about any of this?
Right.
Because your emotions are not private. Your intuition is not random. It is a vital download from the cosmic cloud. Your attention is the most powerful creative force in the universe.
You are not a passive victim of a random mechanical reality.
No. You are the universe actively observing itself into form. Every single time you shift your heart into coherence, every time you conquer a moment of fear instead of letting it dictate your biology, you are literally rewriting the fundamental code of the universe.
The sources really leave us with a profound framework to consider as we wrap up.
What's that final thought?
They suggest that we are, in essence, players in a vast, incredibly complex virtual reality game. But upon entering this game, we voluntarily forgot our power.
We got lost in the game.
Exactly. We became so immersed in the sensory details that we started believing with all our hearts that we are just the fragile characters on the screen, entirely at the mercy of the code.
Right.
But if the universe is merely a giant mirror, reflecting your state of consciousness back to you through the quantum field, are you finally ready to wipe the mirror clean? Are you the player, or are you just a character?
Man, that is a thought to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's a profound amount of information to process, but remember, the algorithm of your reality is written by you. Stay curious, keep exploring the nature of your own mind, and we'll see you next time.